Hey there, students. Thank you for being part of this presentation. My name is Luis Silva, and today we're looking at world history, the Industrial Revolution, 1750 all the way to the 1900s. What will we learn today? Today we're going to analyze the process and impact of industrialization in England and other parts of the world, such as Germany and the United States. Let's move on. In the mid-1700s, an industrial revolution began in England that transformed the way work was done. Rather than making goods by hands, new machines mass-produced products which lowered costs, increased profits, and changed the way people lived. By the year 1900, industrialization spread throughout Europe and the United States, transforming the West into the dominant region of the world. But what caused the Industrial Revolution, and why did it begin in England? What was life before the Industrial Revolution? Before the Industrial Revolution, most Europeans worked and lived on small farming villages using inefficient methods of farming. Farmers relied on medieval and inefficient three-field system. Few farmers actually experimented with new farming techniques, and as a result, the food that was produced kept the population of Europe from growing rapidly. In the mid-1700s, new farm techniques led to an agricultural revolution in Europe. Fences were used to protect large farms. They were called enclosures, and the movement actually became known as the enclosure movement. Scientific farming methods like crop rotation maximize farmland and also increase production. New crops like corn and potatoes were introduced. New tools like the iron plow and seed drill made farming way more efficient. As a result of the agricultural revolution, more food was available and the European population increased. As you can see from the chart to your left, you see how population increased all over Europe. This large population of workers who would soon find work in the industrial factories. Now, the Industrial Revolution began in England for various reasons. About 80% of the British around this time lived in rural areas. Workers weave textiles and handlooms in their homes, and coal is used to produce iron in small amounts. So around the 1750s, the industry of Great Britain consisted mainly of coal mining, iron workshops, cloth making in homes, and cities with over 100,000 people. England had large deposits of natural resources, especially iron and coal. Also, England had banks and government that encouraged trade and invention, and money also to invest in industry. On top of that, England had colonies which provided cheap raw materials and also provided markets to sell industrial goods. From 1750 to 1850, England was the most industrialized nation in the world. What was the first industry to industrialize? The population boom created a demand for clothing, but traditional methods of textile making were very slow. As a result, the textile industry became the first to become industrialized. Now, let's look at what do these inventions do. You have a couple of images here. The spin yard. It weaved yarn into cloth. Now, what do these inventions do here? This is the sewing machine. Now, new inventions sped up spinning, weaving, and sewing, which is very important to mass produce clothing for all of this growing population. What does this invention do? This is the cotton gin. Eli Whitney's invention of the cotton gin stimulated a demand for cotton textiles. Europeans' demand for cotton led to a boom in cotton production and slavery in the southern United States. New textile machinery led to something very important that continued to transform industry in the Industrial Revolution or during the Industrial Revolution. And the new textile machinery led to the invention of the factory system. Power-driven machines were able to mass produce goods very fast and also inexpensive, very cheap. Factory owners made massive profits selling mass-produced clothes. The textile industry and the rise of factory system led to the growth of other industries. Factories needed power and were usually located near rivers. In 1765, James Watt invented the first steam engine. The steam engines produce more power and allow factories to be built in cities near workers. Factories led to a demand for faster transportation. Roads and canals were built in England. Robert Fulton's steamboat increased the speed of water travel. The greatest improvement to transportation was the steam power railroad. Railroads were fast, increased profits, and also stimulated iron and coal industries. Prior to the railroad, it took a very long time to travel from London to Edinburgh. For example, in 1836, it took 43 hours. By 1850, it took about 12 hours. From London to Liverpool, in 1836, it took 24 hours. In 1850, it took about 6.5 hours, and so on. So the railroad changed transportation forever. And here you have the growth of railroads, 1850 to 1880. You see all the red lines. This is Europe, Spain, and Italy, France, Germany, all of those nations. You see the railroads by 1850 were all those lines in green. And then you see how it expanded by 1880, all of those red arrows, which is basically all over Europe. And this is how important the railroad system became in Europe and the world. The textile industry and the rise of the factory system led to the growth of other industries. The Industrial Revolution led to an increase in coal to power factories and railroads. Iron was needed to produce new machines, engines, and railroad tracks. By 1800, England made more iron than all other nations in the world combined. As you can see to the left side here, you have an image how iron was mass produced per year. The textile industry and the rise of the factory system led to the growth of other industries. In this case, Henry Bessemer invented a sheet process for making steel, which is stronger than iron. Steel allowed engineers to design more powerful machines, taller buildings, and longer bridges. Once again, you have all of these images. To the left, you have buildings, and to the right, you have a bridge that was created. This was made possible by the introduction of steel into the Industrial Revolution. Now, other inventions of the Industrial Revolution include electricity, new forms of communications such as the telegraph and the telephone, business machines like typewriters and cash registers, and medical improvements like vaccines. If you see here at the bottom, you have a timeline of all of these inventions that goes from about the 1700s all the way to the early parts of the 1900s. You have the flying shuttle, the spinning jenny, and towards the end you have the radio, you have the airplane, and the Model T Ford. All of these inventions were made possible because of the Industrial Revolution. You're more than welcome to pause this video so you can review each of these inventions carefully. The Industrial Revolution soon spread throughout Europe and America. Germany was quick to embrace new industrial technologies. If you can see here on the map, this is industrialization in 1870. You have major industries included ironworking, textile industry, and coal mining in Europe. Germany had large supplies of coal and iron ore. This was very helpful in industrialization. Germans built a large network of railroads, iron and textile factories. By the mid-1800s, Germany was one of the most industrialized nations in the world and was able to build a powerful modern military. Now, the Industrial Revolution soon spread throughout Europe and also the Americas. Industrial ideas turned the United States into an important world power. If you can see to your right the images or the map that shows you the United States, and it shows you the industry that dominated the United States. You're more than welcome to pause this video and carefully analyze all of the industries that made the United States part of the Industrial Revolution. Southern cotton led to textile mills in the northern part of the United States. After the Civil War in 1865, American industry boomed and the United States became a world leader in railroads, oil, steel, and electricity. Around this time, many United States companies merged to form large corporations and also monopolies. Now, in conclusion, from 1700 to 1900, revolutions in agriculture, industry, transportation, and communication changed Western Europe and the United States. Industrialization gave Europe tremendous economic and military power. Industry also had numerous negative impacts on working conditions and the standard of living for urban workers. As you can see the image to the right, you have literally children working in factories. These children would work long hours in order to make a few dollars. Very important for us to know that despite the fact that the Industrial Revolution in a way bettered the lives for millions of people, it also hurt many of those people that needed the money and had to work long hours in order to survive. We have come to the end of this presentation. Please make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next presentation.